Welcome back to the Players First podcast. I'm Riley Welch, and I have on today assistant coach Joel Justus. Coach, how you doing?
Riley, good morning. Great to be here.
Appreciate you coming on. So, recap this last week. Obviously we had a couple crazy games with South Carolina and then at Arkansas. Arkansas is one of the best environments I'd ever been in. Tell me what it was like, what you saw from our team, how we grew from the first game to the second game, because I felt like we really grew up in how we handled adversity the second time around.
I think, for you, Riley, being here, in your first year, you start to see, for our team, the growth, especially being on the road, what that does. We'd been on the road. We had a quick trip to Michigan State, to start the season. We go to Las Vegas for a week. Didn't have the results, right, that we wanted, but I think that forced all of our guys to grow. Especially guys, if you look back and see how guys, especially Emmanuel and Nick, played nothing like they're playing after Christmas, and the opportunity to use those games to grow. And now fast forward to being into true road games where you go to Georgia and have to have a great final 10 minutes where guys make plays, to then going on the road, getting a big lead, up 14 with 16 minutes to go, really even up 10 with 10 minutes to go. And even as coaches, I think you're still trying to, and Cal's still trying to figure out this team and what this team needs, to see how we responded, after having a lead and then allowing Arkansas to come back and make some plays, and then us responding. I think the big thing that you see, Riley, is it now is starting to turn into what Cal will say is a player-driven team, and I know you've heard this since the beginning of the summer, is Cal does what he does and coaches the way that he coaches in hopes of ultimately guys stepping up and becoming leaders, and this team becoming a player-driven team instead of a coach-driven team. And that, I think you're starting to see that. I think from the coaching staff, from our side of it. And as a coach, you're proud of that.
I think, especially in the Georgia game, you saw Emmanuel and Ashton really kind of, especially when Cal was thrown out of the game, kind of take charge and take responsibility for what was going to happen the rest of the game. And, KP always talks about the four returners plus Nate, the veterans on this team, they have to be the ones to lead. We have a lot of talented freshmen, but they have to be the ones to lead those freshmen. They know what it's like to go on the road. And so I was really proud of Ashton and Emmanuel, how they responded to playing without our head coach, down 3 after we were just up, 12, I think, at one point, and then to come back and go on a 17-2 run. I don't think that happens without those guys taking charge and, being the leaders that they've become.
No, absolutely. And like I said, as coaches and as a staff, that's what you ultimately want, is for guys to take the game on, to speak in huddles, to grab for a second huddle, even after a timeout. And I think you saw that. You saw it as a player. I saw it as an assistant coach. And oftentimes that's better, even than having a Hall of Fame coach like Cal leading the way, is when the guys, they have a say in what's going on. They're going to be more invested, if it's their idea or if it's their word. And I think you saw that, and that's big growth. From a Wednesday to a Saturday, that's big growth. But those guys have played in big games, and you throw Nick Richards in there, you throw EJ in there. EJ's defense, on Jimmy Witt was a critical part of that game. A guy that had multiple double figures, 20-point games, and EJ's length, attention to detail, the way that he was locked in, during during the walkthroughs, during the film sessions, I thought was a big part of that, especially the way the game started. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, they were obviously trying to go at that matchup early, and you're happy for a guy like EJ, and you know as well as we do, and even really the Big Blue Nation, we need EJ. You know, if we're going to be the team that we all want to be, we need EJ to continue to take those steps. And, you know, shoot, it's January 20th. We still got, you know, hopefully 10 weeks ahead of us here that we can get better.
No, and that's something Cal talks about in meetings all the time, is we haven't hit our ceiling. We're nowhere close to it. And that's what's scary, I think, for, you know, the rest of college basketball. Is we have so many.
It's scary for us, too,
Yes.
because we're not, you know.
It's scary for us as well.
I'm more concerned about us than everybody else at this point, you know. But I'm glad that you're concerned about everybody else. Yeah. That's good. That says a lot about you as a person. You're a great kid. You're a great teammate. But I don't really care, and I don't want you to care about anybody else. But go ahead with the rest of your thought.
Always getting yelled at, just like in the games.
If you don't talk to the other team, then you won't get yelled at. That's talk to our team.
I finally made the halftime speech.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
But
I think that's why Cal got thrown out. He was still mad from you at the first half.
Yeah, he was passive aggressively frustrated.
Yes.
But no, we have so many talented guys. Like KB really improved even in the last 10 minutes of that game. You know, Khalil still hasn't hit where he can be. Johnny's starting to finally work his way back into the rotation and played really well in what was asked of him. So I was really proud of him. He's been working really hard, and he hit a couple shots for the first time in as long as I can remember. Even in the South Carolina game, just having the guts to, like, you know, South Carolina was making a huge run. He attacked the rim, missed, and just got a putback. Like, I saw that, and I was like, you know, that's why Johnny's a big time player.
Yeah. Well, and I think when you look at it, and it's, you know, the way that the season is built, and then even at the end of the season, it's a tournament game. You know, and basketball, you have different styles, you have different teams, you have different coaches, you have different ways to skin a cat, and you're hoping to ultimately win 6 games, you know, at the end of the year. And even rewind that to Nashville, when we go and you have to play 3 games in 3 days, you're going to have multiple guys step up. You know, you can't play this game, whether it be the SEC tournament, whether it be the NCAA tournament, with only 5 guys. You know, you're going to ultimately have somebody get in foul trouble. You're going to have somebody that's maybe a mismatch, you know, for the other team. I mean, even you're looking at, you know, the Arkansas game the other day. I mean, there was at one point they had basically 5 guards out there. Mm-hmm. You fast forward to tomorrow night with Georgia. I mean, it's another team that doesn't necessarily have a traditional big man. And in a game when we were in Athens, we had to go small at times, you know, and play a smaller lineup where you couldn't play 2 of our bigger guys. So you do need all those guys. And I think you've started to see that with Coach Cal and how he's flexing a little bit with some different and experimenting with some different lineups. But you do need everybody. I mean, Keon Brooks has now had back-to-back games with 7 rebounds. That's huge. That's something that when he's at his best, that's who he is. You know, he's a guy that is a rebounder. He's a guy that flies in transition. He's a guy that ultimately you can move around the court and score in different ways. And I think Khalil Whitney's going to be that guy too for us. I mean, everyone kind of moves at their own speed and at their own pace. And then Johnny obviously, you know, got a little sick there right after the new year, and you know, had to take a little bit of a step back, but has worked his way back in. I mean, he's in there in the gym right now working, and that's what you want from our standpoint. And is you want guys that are ready to take on the moment every single day, not just on the game days. But this is the time where you still have to build your confidence because your time can come. I mean, at this time of year last year, we had a major piece go down with an injury. You know, Reed Travis gets hurt at the end of a Missouri game, you know, and now you have to have some other guys step into his minutes, into his roles. You obviously hope that doesn't happen, but you've got to be ready for it. You've got to be prepared. And this is a team and this is a game where you need your full complement, your full roster to be ready, and they need to be confident. And I think that's what Cal's ultimately pushing for.
And I think it's one of the biggest misconceptions about guys that come to Kentucky because they're, all 5 stars, McDonald's All-American, guys who are, while they're still in high school, projected to be lottery picks. That's something that's tough to deal with.
I didn't know that about you.
What? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, this year definitely hasn't gone how I wanted. I was looking for more minutes, but no, I'm just that's a joke. I knew what I was getting into, and I'm very lucky to be here. But we had people don't realize just how difficult it is to be a college freshman athlete. In any sport, let alone basketball, where there's so much thinking, so much independence, and especially at a place like Kentucky where there's so much attention put on you. There's no other place in the country where everything you do is scrutinized. People love you one day, hate you the next. It's a tough place, and guys they're still kids and they're still trying to figure everything out. And then there's expectations and pressure. There's a lot to work through, and it doesn't always happen right away. I know myself when I was at UCI, it's you get to college and you're expecting one thing, then you're there and you realize how much more difficult it is. And I think that's something even our big time recruits, it's something people figure out at their own pace.
No doubt. I mean, and it's still a process, and this is a place where you are forced to deal with adversity. And I think that's what makes this place special. You have a head coach, you have a staff that is going to try to every single day make this as hard as it can possibly be, in the basketball court, in the weight room, with the expectation that our guys are going to fail. Okay, well then let's see how they respond to failure. Let's see how they handle setbacks. And you don't want them to handle it the same way in November and December that they are in January, February, and hopefully March. But that's what makes you stronger. I think that's what makes us all stronger in life. And especially, and you've heard this, not necessarily that it applies to you, is if you want to be professional, as a basketball player. But if you want to be professional as a coach, if you want to be professional as a banker or a insurance or accountant, anything, you're going to have times where there is adversity, and when that sets in, how do you respond? And that's what Cal, that's what Kenny, Tony, myself, Rob, everybody that is here, we try to make this as hard as it can be, as fast as it can be. At UC Irvine, at UNC Wilmington, where we were, okay, it's a little different. All right, we've got some seniors, you got some juniors that have been through the battles, whereas here we don't have that time. This is a place that the young guys have to be ready to come in and play, both for our team but also for them. Mm-hmm. If they're wanting to move to the next step, well, you're saying that to us that you're coming here with this expectation that you want to be professional. Okay, well, we're gonna coach you that way. We're gonna teach you that way. We're gonna challenge you that way from day one. There's no, okay, we can wait for tomorrow for that, or we can wait till next year for that. That's not how this works. Mm-hmm. If at the end of the first year, hey, it's that opportunity's not there, then great, come back and we're ready to attack a second year. And I think you saw that with P.J. Washington, and now I think you're seeing it with Nick Richards. In his third year with the type of confident young man that he is, it's taken time. It's not that it's right or wrong. It's not that PJ's better than Nick because it took him 2 years. It's not that Jamal Murray or Bam Adebayo or anyone else that's on this wall is better than either one of those guys because it only took them 1 year. This is about you coming and moving at your pace, the right pace, for you, and moving on to chase your dreams when that time is ready.
Yeah, no, that's what obviously after the South Carolina game, there was a lot of adversity there. Losing a big lead to a team that has struggled at times this year. They're playing better, but that was a game we felt like we should have been able to close out and take advantage of the lead we had. And then they banked in a shot at the buzzer. After Quick just hits. Quick had one of the best games of his career again. He's in an unbelievable stretch of playing right now. And for them to bank in that shot, everyone was down. Everyone was, feeling not great. And what made me happy was we had KB, Nate, and Johnny, who were some of the people that were talked about not having their best games. We landed at 2 or 3 in the morning, and they were in the gym with me at, I think we went at 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
And, got a good hour workout in, and I had to leave for class, and they continued to play one-on-one. And it's just, the fact that, no one was asking them to do that. That wasn't required by anyone. That was just them on their own saying, I'm not where I need to be. I want to improve. I want to get better for myself and for this team to help us win games.
And I think that's the culture that I think that as a coach here, I'm the most proud of. That's who we are, here. And that's ultimately what you want those guys to embrace as well. You guys to embrace as well. I mean, that was not even directed. That wasn't directed from an assistant coach or a head coach. That's player driven. We talked about that in the games. That might be just as important. As guys taking on that initiative to build their own confidence, because we sure need it. You need a group of guys that are confident that there's sweat equity in this thing that we are building towards March, both individually and collectively. And I think that in Cal's 11 years here, that's the thing that he would be most proud of. Is the culture that is here is one of hard work, of togetherness, and one that the guys, get back up when we've been knocked down, because, shoot, that happens.
And that's something he talks about all the time is, be responsible for your own game. It's like if you come in and you're not making shots, he can't make shots for you. He can't, give you the confidence to make shots. You're not making shots, but you're doing other things well, then why aren't you in the gym? Get in the gym on your own. We have plenty of people around this program who are willing to help, who want to help our guys. And so that's what I'm happy. Like, you think people have this perception that sometimes the best players aren't very hard workers. And we have a lot of hardworking guys on this team in this program, and that's why guys like Nick is able to improve so much from year to year. I don't even know, like, with Nick, he has such a bright future ahead of him because just the growth he's made in 1 year. He's going to continue to work. And so whether he comes back, whether he goes to the next step of his career after this year, I have no idea. But he's still going to be that same kid who's learned lessons from here that are going to help him with the rest of his basketball journey, and then even post-basketball when he's just, living life, whatever that is afterwards.
I mean, I think that, that all starts in recruiting. Is you've got to go and find the right people that are built for this, that are built for this culture. Everybody wants the sold-out arena. Everybody wants the end result. Everyone wants to be in the NBA. Everybody wants to have the max deals like our guys get. But, who's built for Thursday morning at 7:30 after a half-court shot banks in? Who's built for that? And that's what our job is, as assistant coaches, and ultimately that's Cal's final decision is who is ready, to embrace that. No one's ready really to come in and step in and knock it out of the park. It's who is ready to take on that challenge every single day. Not when you feel like it, not when things are going 100% your way. Who's ready to embrace the bad parts? Who's ready to embrace the adversity? And it's a big part of what Cal challenges us, as a staff, to go and find those guys. And I think that's, the biggest part of why we've been able to build this culture here is you've got a group of guys, and you've had a group of guys, as well as a group of great families that know that this is going to be tough, but also are supportive and loving and caring that it's going to take some time.
Shifting gears a little bit, explain to us your journey from an assistant coach at Elon to having your own high school program, and then ending up here with Coach Cal on the staff, and then coming from a role where you weren't allowed to be on the court interacting with guys, working them out, to being an assistant coach, which is you're allowed to be on the court, you're fully involved in everything, run film sessions. Like, explain to us your journey and then what your responsibilities are within the coaching staff and within the team.
I mean, I think the journey is one. The way I look at it is you never know. I mean, I think when I was your age, kind of I knew that basketball was coming to an end at some point. And I had a great opportunity to go and be a full-time assistant coach at Elon, right out of college, in my first year. And, at that time it was, I think I made $12,000 and no health benefits. But it was a great opportunity, for I guess I was 22, 23 in my first year, to be on the floor, to recruit. I worked for a guy, Ernie Nestor, that was a, experienced, seasoned coach. And, I learned a lot because I did a lot. And at the same time, I'm obviously fine saying this. I mean, I think at that time in my life too, you start that and you become a little bit maybe fully yourself, at that time, to think you're smarter than you are. I had actually interviewed with Cal after my third year at Elon when he was at Memphis. And I think it was a really, really good thing, but it was also something that, maybe in in all transparency, kind of messed with me a little bit, thinking, all right, well, why is my career not progressing like I think it should? And sometimes, I mean, you have to be humbled in this profession. So I took a high school job, and was humbled very quickly, in terms of, you think, okay, I'm this hotshot Division I player, was an assistant coach at the Division I level. All right, I'm just going to walk into these high school games and just outcoach people and win all these games. And very quickly you figure out, okay, that it ain't that easy. But I did that for 6 years. I learned a lot as a head coach, and really learned what it was like to coach basketball, to teach basketball, but also how to manage people, to work with a group of guys versus being an assistant coach where you kind of have your little kind of pod of guards or big guys, which I did both times at Elon. You figured out how to manage expectations, how to deal with egos, as well as how to plan a practice, how to run a team, how to run a program, how to plan for the future, how to deal with success, how to deal with failures, both as a collective group, but also, with individuals. And then really had the opportunity to come back here, come here for the 2014-15 season in a non-coaching role. It was the year that Cal had lost a couple guys off of the staff. Orlando had left and gone to South Florida, and there was a couple other staffers that had moved on. And really my thing was, look, I had reached back out to Cal and said, hey, look, I've done this, I've done that, in my career, but really would love to come and work for you and learn. And you talk about the journey. For me, the journey really never stops. And I wanted to learn. I wanted to get better. I wanted to challenge myself to learn from somebody else. And, have been here now 6 years and had a couple different roles. And in each one, I feel like I've tried to kind of be the best, in the country at that, to be the best director of analytics, to be the best special assistant to the head coach, and then for the last couple of years, be the best assistant coach, for my boss and for our players, and, really just tried to dominate my role. And my role, now is moves day to day a little bit. We have a tremendous staff of people, from Coach Robick, who's had a tons of experience. You have an opportunity to learn from him. You have Tony Barbie, who's been a head coach, who's, a tremendous coach on the defensive side of the ball. You have Kenny Payne, who has, been here and has coached so many great players, and you see the mental side of how he challenges guys. And then obviously working for Cal, you feel like every single day you step in the craft center, you get better. And I think that's the same thing that we talk to you guys is, hey, why not get better today? And I think that's the same mental that I come to work with every single day is how do you get better personally, but also what can you do for somebody else?
And that's something, you talked about being the best at your role and, whatever that role is. And that's something my dad spoke to me about with his boss now for the Clippers, Lawrence Frank. Like, he told me that when Lawrence was an advanced scout, he thought being the advanced scout was the most important position in the organization. And he did 60-page reports, and he worked his ass off, and he did this and this and this. And then when he was, in charge of player development, he thought that was the most important role, and he had to dominate that role. And then when he was an assistant coach, when he was a defensive coordinator, when he was a head coach, and now he's, president of basketball operations, right. Everything he does, he has the mindset that it's the most important job. And I think that's something I know I don't have the most important job here, but, trying to frame it in my mind as I do have an important role to play, and I might not contribute on the court, but I can help the guys who do. And whatever small way that is, being a friend, they want to get in the gym, they just need someone to talk to, go to lunch with, anything I can do to help contribute. That's something that changed my mindset is, you're never in a position where you're helpless. There's always something you can do for yourself and for those around you.
And I think that's the way that Cal has built this, and it all circles back to culture, and when you bring people here, I think I might have even mentioned this in a media spot that we did, everybody that you bring here, when you're a head coach, when you're a GM or, director of player personnel, and you bring people into a setting where it's a team, every single person that's there is important, from Tyrese Maxey, who's our leading scorer, to a guy like yourself that doesn't play much in the games. Everyone is important, and everybody has a win share per game, and that is paramount when you are playing and you are involved in a team sport. Everybody has to have the end goal be winning. Now, if everybody wins, then we all eat, in our own way. Now, some of us have different meals, but that is the most important thing is you have to have the right people in the boat, or it sinks.
You can't have people swimming in one direction, paddling in one direction and guys paddling in the other.
For sure.
And just the people that surround your players are really important, and trying to keep their mindset in the right one. Like you said, the better we do collectively as a team, people want winners in whatever capacity that is. Me trying to get into coaching after this, if I'm part of a, really good Kentucky team that won a lot of games, people want someone who has won in whatever capacity that is. And then guys, when guys are going to the NBA, yeah, they love the individual talent and, skills they can provide. But at the end of the day, even if you're putting up 30 and 10, if your team goes 20 and 62, that's not the end goal for them either. It's about winning games, winning championships. And that's something I think guys who come here realize because, if you want to go put up numbers, there's a lot of other places where you can do that. But if you want to be a part of something special, get better every day, be challenged, not just by the coaching staff, but also by your teammates. Practices are difficult. You got Ashton going against Tyrese every day. Those are two, they're both on the midseason top 25 list. I don't know how many other places where you have 2 point guards in the same program going against each other and making each other better every day. And then if Ashton and Tyrese aren't matched up, it's Ashton and Quick or Tyrese and Quick. And Quick, we have the best backcourt in the country.
I wouldn't trade it.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't know that I would trade it for anybody. I know that.
Yeah, the fact that Quick comes off the bench most of the time, I don't think there's a place in the country he couldn't start for. And he's obviously one of our best players, just the way kind of matchups work and the way we want to start games. It ends up him coming off the bench, and then he literally doesn't come out after he comes off the bench. And our last game, he started, played all 40 minutes. And just speaking of like our culture of hard work, those 3 guards work extremely hard, always in the gym, in the weight room. So it's pretty cool to see, Tyrese and Ashton get that recognition midway through the season. Obviously, that's not the main thing we're worried about, but it's, anytime guys get recognition for what they've produced, you're very happy for them. And then Emmanuel, after Christmas, has just been unbelievable. I don't know how many players in the country have been better than him. And even in a game where he goes, I think, 2 for 14, he still has a big imprint on winning, hits a huge 3 to kind of cap a big run for us after Cal got thrown out, 10 rebounds, played great defense on their best. I don't know if I can't remember a time Quick's gotten scored on in the past 5 games. And then
other than late against South Carolina, where the guy in scout team that we said is a hard right-hand driver, and he gave him 2 right-hand drives to the basket and then got an and one. I remember that. Maybe you don't.
Must have not been paying attention to those.
I remember that. But go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Emmanuel's great. We love Emmanuel. Yes.
No one's perfect.
Go ahead. I know Emmanuel wants to talk. You talk about how great Emmanuel is. Go ahead. Yes.
But then to have 10 rebounds and contribute to winning in a significant way, even when you're shot. Because, I think I know he was 10 of 11 at one point. I think he was maybe 13 of 16.
Mm-hmm.
It's like at some point there's going to be a game where his shots aren't falling. And for that to be the game, for us to win, and for him to still have a very good game and contribute was that made me proud of him as a friend and as a teammate.
For sure. No, and I think you see the growth and the confidence. You didn't see Emmanuel last year, but and not that he was in a bad way, but the amount of confidence that he's playing with is just tremendous to see as someone that has worked with him, and that's a huge credit to him.
Speaking of guys you've worked with, who are some of the guys in the NBA that when they were here, you spent a lot of time with, and who do you kind of still talk to somewhat frequently?
With this being my 4th year on the floor, the first year was the backcourt of, it was De'Aaron, it was Malik, Isaiah Briscoe. That group was extremely talented, and it was a unique year, and I always remember this, is that group challenged me because they were really fueled by competition. There was not a group that was content with just some repetition. They were really fueled, Malik Monk especially, by competition and drills. So we couldn't really just kind of rep out, all right, let's just get some shots. Everything had to be competitive, whether it was a one-on-one, whether it was a one-on-two, two-on-one. There had to be some competition, or they, right or wrong, weren't interested. And that team, and especially in that group when we did individuals, it really challenged me as a coach to not just kind of go the route of, all right, let's just rep this out. The next year was the year with Shea Alexander, and it was such a fun year because of the amount of time that we spent together. He came in and wanted to come to Kentucky for everything that is here. And I use the line all the time. I think Shea got more out of Kentucky than we did out of him. He took advantage of everything that was here. Spent so much time, really mastering his craft and never was satisfied with anything. So that was a lot of fun as a coach, to have somebody that was that hungry, but also you felt like, okay, I've got to be on today. If this kid is fighting this hard, like, you just can't show up. Mm-hmm. It was like, okay, you're going to work hard. Well, I'm going to work harder than you. And then he would come back and had kind of the same mentality. All right, well, I'm going to be the hardest working guy in the gym. Well, no, Like, now let's challenge each other. And that was a fun, really satisfying year as a coach, and I think he would say the same thing.
And my dad coached Shea his rookie year, and my dad has literally nothing but positive things to say about Shea. Came in right away, and I think after 8 games was moved into the starting lineup. And LA is a big market. It's not the same as being at Kentucky because you got the Lakers in LA, but it's another very big time market. Playing for another coach who's very well respected, going to be in the Hall of Fame at some point. And he handled it unbelievably well. I was always receptive to coaching. Came in every day with a smile. My dad said, just a good young kid to be around, and one of the hardest workers he's ever been around. Shea came in the summer, and I'm sure you've heard of Gerg's Camp, where all the young guys go. And Shea would want to be there before. He'd want to be there after the morning session. And then they come back. You get there early again, stay late. And, in the NBA, load management's a big thing. And so, Shea would get my dad in trouble because they're like, Shea can't be on the court that much. And I was like, Shea's the one that wants to be on the court. Like,
right.
He comes up to me and asks to be on the court. I can't say no. Like, the kid just wants to get better and he's hungry to improve.
No, I mean, I think that's – Shea was professional from the minute he walked in the door here. I wanted to be treated that way, wanted to work that way. Similar to the way that Tyler Hero was last year, and Keldon learned how to be professional here as well. And, I think that whole group, and now you add in, the guys like Ashton and Emmanuel who were on the team last year, and now you see their growth in year 2. Combined with obviously Tyrese, being able to work with Tyrese like we do, it's I think as a coach you want to go to work every day with great people that just want to work, and it's a beautiful thing about working here and with the guys that ultimately come here and then leave. It's great when you are able to work with people that are that driven.
Speaking, you talked about recruiting a little bit earlier. Now that guys are signed, I believe we're able to speak about them publicly. We got Terrence. I know Coach Cal last night saw Brandon and Devin play. We got Lance committed. Am I missing anyone?
Isaiah Jackson.
He just
Cam
committed.
Fletcher.
Cameron Fletcher. That's right. We got so that's 6 guys, and I believe we're still recruiting. We just had.
You're always recruiting, Riley.
Yeah,
You're always recruiting.
I can't talk about other people we just I know about because they are not currently signed here, so do not want to get in trouble with compliance. But kind of talk about what you see from those 6 guys next year. What was it about them that you guys saw and were like, all right, they have what it takes to come in and contribute and handle the pressure of playing at Kentucky?
I think the first thing that jumps out at you is they all wanted it. That's a big thing with Cal is, he wants guys that want to be here, that want to, get better, that want to be challenged, that want to go up against, great players every single day that aren't scared about that. And I think that's the first step in being professional, is you have to know that this is not about you. When you come to Kentucky, and each one of those guys knows that. I think when you talk about the guys like Devin and BJ and Terrence, they're guys that have all put themselves, in situations with other really good players, and that they want to be challenged every single day and know that that's what makes them better. And this is the next step in their development as as young people. You have a guy like Cam Fletcher who's extremely gifted. In a lot of different ways. Great downhill attacking guard / wing / small ball 4. He's so versatile, similar to like a Keon, Khalil, guys that you can move all over the floor. And then you have Lance, who's a big guy that is extremely skilled, plays really, really hard. Had a great game the other day up at the Hoop Hall against Rancho Christian. He's a guy that continues to get better every time you see him. And I think Isaiah is another guy that looks like the guys that have come here in the past, extremely gifted, talented, plays, with a great motor, and is going to come here and really get better, at what he does, and as well as being a system with other really good players is going to make him a better player. And all 6 of those guys you're excited to see, and I know that we'll be excited when they get here in June.
Yeah, that it'll be interesting to see. That's another thing about Kentucky is you're never sure who's going to be back, who's going to pursue their dreams of being a professional. So it'll be interesting to see, in June what our roster is looking like, who we have from this team back, what guys end up coming here that we're not sure about right now that we're still recruiting. But one thing about guys that come to Kentucky is they're going to work hard, and they're
even if they're from California, they work hard.
Yeah,
that's the nice part. Even if they're from California, they work hard.
Johnny Juzang just walked by after a workout, and Johnny and I get some flack for I'm originally from Colorado. That's where I grew up and went to high school, but I live in California now. That's where I was born. So me and Johnny both get a little bit of a tough time for being from LA. I never realized until you're on the eastern side of the country how much of a hard time they'll give you for being from LA. People really do think you're soft.
No comment on that. We try to recruit other players we try to recruit good players from Los Angeles. So we got one in Johnny. Johnny Juzang, not you, Johnny.
Yeah.
Not you, Johnny.
I have a few different names on the team. I can be Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
I can be Johnny. I can be come here.
Yep.
Yeah. So I have a few different names that I go by. Excited to be all of them. But I think that's about going to wrap it up. Me and Joel have to get out to the court to go over scout team. We've got Georgia again on Tuesday, and then a tough Texas Tech team in Lubbock, which should be a lot of fun. But, Coach, really appreciate you coming
Brother,
on.
thanks for having me. Thank you.